So guys, pardon me, I do have my fan on, and I have to talk about a few things before I get into this video. That I did ride the California Zephyr a couple of months ago, and I did a video on YouTube, and somebody was responding to me last night, and they were kind of like giving me constructive criticisms about, possibly re-editing the video because my video blacks out, and I was kind of angry when my video blacked out because I had a very tight schedule and it really cut into the commentary that I left. So I was kind of like, you know what, fuck it. It's just it would just be another pain in the ass to kind of like deal with that. And then I also had some other video files and other projects that I was doing. So I was kind of like, you know what, fuck, it's it's when it's done, it's done. To give you a good example, when I was in middle school, I had a teacher who was very meticulous. So I remember like doing a homework assignment for her, and she made me go home every single night for like a month, like over 30 times, like fixing something. So my dad told me, he said, Byron, go tell your teacher that, this project is done, and stop wasting my goddamn printing paper. So sometimes I've learned from that experience and other experience that there's sometimes you just gotta let things go, because if you don't, you end up just kind of making something forever. But I do think that, I really appreciate what this person was saying, and he was definitely saying, maybe another option is, because you don't have the video footage anymore, it's just do a video about your critique about it. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to talk to you about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the California Zephyr. And I do want to apologize to everybody because, I work 80-hour weeks and I have other projects going on, so I'm always on the move. But I do feel like I can give you guys a good video about the good, the bad, the ugly, the last part of my California Zephyr video. So what I would say is that if you ride the California Zephyr, there are a lot of good things about it. Like, honestly, it's good to see the American landscape, and it's also good to bring a young child with you, because it's good to show them like just how beautiful the country is and just really how beautiful nature is. And that's really important, because there's a lot of kids who just play on their phones all day, or sometimes people talk about global warming and preserving the environment, but when actually you see how beautiful the American landscape is and why it's important to protect this, it sends a better message to your child. It's almost like what happens in Germany, where they don't talk about the Holocaust. They bring the kids to the death camps to be like, what, this really did happen. And then also too, like there's reasons why, like in California, if you ever take a field trip, they'll bring the kids to like those forests with the giant redwoods and all that, with the giant sequoias, to encourage the kids. Okay, well, look at how beautiful this land is. Like 100 years ago, they believed in like, just getting chainsaws and just destroying all this stuff. So it really, I think, inspires children to really appreciate nature, adults to really appreciate nature, and then also to further send the message to the next generation, the importance of preserving the American landscape and nature in general. The next thing is that it really inspires you to travel, because I kind of was saying too that, what would happen if I did something like got off in Milwaukee and spent 2 or 3 days there? What would happen if I got off in Salt Lake City, Utah, and spent 2 or 3 days there? What would happen if I was into skiing and I spent 2 or 3 days in Fraser, Colorado? What would happen if I spent 2 or 3 days in Denver, and so on and so on? Like, you see so much different stuff. It inspires you to kind of like get off and travel. The next thing is that, I know some people don't like the quality of the food, but I do like the quality of the food there. And ultimately, it is definitely like, a different vacation. We always think about vacations as flying to a place and just doing what we can there, and not just really like, the journey of traveling to somewhere. You look at like, books like Don Quixote or the Heart of Darkness, that sometimes the reward is also the journey, not always the quick journey, which is a flight or something like that. Like, I'm planning to go to Hawaii, but I think that would be really awesome if I was able to take a cruise from, San Francisco all the way to Hawaii, or even if I took a boat from the Gulf of Alaska all the way to Hawaii. That would be a more interesting thing. So there's definitely a sense of adventure. So, and also another benefit is that, it cost me like $500, close to $600 for a room. for a one-person room. And I do think that, if you consider Airbnb and like food expenses and other things like that and travel expenses, it's definitely a very cheap vacation. So it will save you a lot of money. And there's a bunch of negatives. First of all, they do not have Wi-Fi. And I recommend, like with T-Mobile, they have a portable hotspot. You should definitely bring that. But it's definitely inexcusable that they have no like Wi-Fi. Because there are people who have other projects. If you're doing vlogging and you have a bunch of like files or a bunch of like, this is my day 1, my day 2, my day 3, here's a quick video. You would always want to like post that online as soon as possible. The next thing, because so you can film more stuff and then anything can happen. The next thing is that these trains are also very dangerous because definitely there are always violent jolts. The next thing is that it's easy to fall down. It's not safe to shower sometimes because, you're covered with soap and water. You can slip in the shower, especially if you're an older person. And as somebody was saying in another video, imagine if your old person has to get up and pee in the middle of the night. There is a chance of you getting hurt very badly going up and down the stairs on a jostling train. And there's been times where trains like this have fallen off the tracks and stuff like that. So definitely, there needs to be more like sense of infrastructure and also modernizing trains in America. Like, these trains I think were built in the 60s and the 70s. So it's time for an upgrade, and they're very slow to upgrade these things. The other issue I would say is that the food is very, very overpriced. It's very despicable that, a breakfast is $25, a lunch is $25, and a dinner is $50 if you don't have a room. And then also too, like they won't let you share your food. So let's say if you want to be cheap and you're like, okay, well, I have like 2 kids, one's getting the chicken, one's getting the rice. You're cutting the dessert in half. They'll not let you do something like that. But then if you have a family of 4, that's $400 for dinner. That's why a lot of people would be going to the concessions or sneaking like sandwiches in or something like that. So it's not really fair that they overprice stuff like that. I mean, it's actually $50 for dinner. So family of 4, that'll be $200. And definitely the quality of the food is not worth a $200 meal. More than likely, maybe a $20 meal. I mean, even the breakfasts, that should be like maybe like $10, not like $25. And I also didn't like the tip shaming. So, expecting you to leave like $5-10 tip every meal, that's a little much. So and then the other thing is that as I've said before, that definitely the customer service is up and down. Like I took the California Crescent, my room attendant was very lazy, and I've talked about like how I don't like the concession person who was there because he was telling jokes on the intercom and saying, thanks you for riding the California ZEPHYR, and drawing attention to himself. And, and it's as I said, like some people may say, play along or whatever, but I'm one of those people where I don't like that because it is attention seeking and it's also just like hamming it up. So I don't like that type of personality because you're almost like making it about you, but also other people are encouraging you to do that behavior, and that's just not okay. Like, for example, like the concession person was also dressing up with a clown afro and clown nose for all the kids, and I kind of felt that, like I've said, that that's just not professional. I work at a hospital. If I dress up like Patch Adams, they would bring me to my boss's office and tell me to cut the crap. The other thing is that another example is that when I went to a movie theater, I was seeing Nosferatu years and years ago, but there were kids being rude and disrespectful and making commentary and just other things about the movie, and then cheering when he died. And then what happened was at the end of the film, like when these rude kids were getting out, people were clapping for them because they're kind of like, we found it cute that you just misbehaved and added stuff. You found it cute that you added stuff to the movie when that was misbehaving. And I remember like telling somebody, somebody said, well, the kids really added to the movie. And I'm like, yeah, well, I really wanted to punch one of them in the face. And he looked at me like, what's wrong with you? And it's because they kind of didn't get where I came from, which is respect. You never ever, there is a certain level of class and there's a certain level of, I don't tolerate your humor. Or it's a situation where you need to be professional. When you're on the intercom, it needs to be about professionalism. And I think that, it's what kind of sent me over the edge was, I think that it wasn't just a sing-song thing. Like, it was like what happened when he was giving away sandwiches. Like, like he said, like, can somebody please come get the sandwich? It's for free. Can somebody please come get the sandwich for free? So you're all telling me that nobody wants to get this scrumptious free, egg and cheese sandwich. And then someone went down, he's like saying, these two people came down, thank you for running the California Zephyr. And I felt that was a little like also rude. That he was not gonna like, get off the intercom until somebody did that. And as I said, that, if I was the conductor, I would like talk to him about not doing that. If it happens to get a citation, third time fire his ass. Because it's not about your sense of humor. That's unprofessional. The other thing is that the bathrooms are disgusting. They don't clean it every single day. Definitely they should be cleaning it like just like in a store, either every hour or every like 3 hours. They should be cleaning the bathrooms. Cake batter in the bowl, peanut butter in the bowl. That's what it looks like. The next thing that I would say is that what's also bad is that it's also, as I said, not safe to shower. So sometimes you may have to not shower for like 2 or 3 days. And that can be kind of gross for people. Or like, like as they talk about with women, like, if you menstruate and it's helpful to shower, what, you're better off not showering for a couple of days. The other thing that's an issue, the last thing is that, two other things, is that it's very easy for a cancellation, a delay, or to be sent back to Chicago. So, if you have a trip, you have somewhere to go, there is a huge chance of your ride being sent back. And that's not cool. Like, I was going to Alaska, so if I got sent back to Chicago, I would have had to cancel my plans for San Francisco, or even and fly to Seattle to do the rest of my journey, or cancel San Francisco and Seattle and go to just Alaska and do that part. So it can become very expensive, and sometimes they may not even give you a refund. Or they may just give you a credit. Oh, you pay $500 for a room, but we'll give you like $200 or $300, so they're pocketing money. So, there is a chance that your vacation can get ruined because of inconveniences like that. We have like a 3 or 4 hour delay. And I also think the other thing that I don't like is that on the last day you get 2 meals. So that just means if they're late like 3 or 4 hours, they're gonna like, act like dinner doesn't exist. So you go without food hungry. So I remember like the last meal was around like 1 p.m. and then I didn't have food until like 10 p.m. So I felt that was kind of cheap. If you're gonna pay $500 for a room and it's like at least like it's a 3 hour delay, they should feed you. And if it's 3 hours, they should feed you. They should not be like cheap about that just to save some money. The last thing that I would say is that families suck. Kids suck. So you can have you can be in a room and you can have like screaming kids, or parents that don't know how to their kids anymore. So I remember there were some kids running up and down the aisle for a couple of hours. There were some kids throwing food and cereal in the aisle, and it's kind of like what I said before. Some people can be like, okay, my kid doesn't have any entertainment, but, I grew up in that generation of, your parents will slap you in the mouth and then you learned to respect others, or you had 3 or 4 year old kids that would be screaming and crying. And, again, people don't their kids anymore, teach them respect. Because I did grow up in that generation of, you slap your kids, you slap the shit out of your kids, and they learn that, it's not about their drama or them being bored. And then the other thing is that, sometimes too, you may be trying to get some sleep. There may be some screaming spoiled brats in another room that have issues. And it was kind of a little disturbing because I remember trying to get a nap, and then there's this little girl, and I remember her mom was saying that, you may have autism. You have autism and you're hitting me, so that's why I'm pinning you down. And this girl's kind of screaming that her mom was just legitimately pinning her down. And I know animals do that to I think dogs do that to their puppies and other things like that. So you're gonna have to deal with that. But overall, I would say that good, bad, and the ugly about the California Zephyr are this: that and no, these are the good, bad, and the ugly. So I think my overall result would say that, do I think it's worth it? I would say no, because there are chances of there are just chances of it being canceled, of it being late, or you being sent back to Chicago. I also think that they need to really upgrade these trains and make them a lot more safer, because it's very like rickety, and you can hurt yourself. And definitely the food choices are overpriced, so it can be a situation where you're relying on unhealthy concession stand food. And then the other big concern is that you're using bathrooms that are shared with like 50, 60 people, so it can be kind of like gross bathrooms. Or what would happen if somebody take a shit on the toilet and there's like some turds on it, then you have to go to another one. And if that's a situation with all of them, you just have to you're out of luck if you don't have any alcohol wipes. So I think for those reasons, I'd say it's more not worth it. But I do think it's worth doing once in a while in your lifetime, if you want to be fair about it. I do think the American landscape is beautiful. It's good to see so many different biomes, but it's definitely needs of major upgrades. And like I said, European trains, Japanese trains are a lot better. It's sad that America doesn't have that yet, and it needs to get to that point way sooner than way later. And it would make the California Zephyr more so something that everybody would take, instead of a small group of people.